And I think that this is Roger's best solo album, you know, in my opinion. He just channels everything that informed his musical vibe up to that point, because Roger was only 32 years old when this album came out, because his birthday was in November. He was born in November of 1951. So this album came out in the summer of 84. So he was 32 years old. So he was not super young, but young enough to still be considered hip, as it were, back then. But he didn't have a problem shouting out the past that influenced him. Going on, everybody? You're right on time for another ride on the Groove Line with your host, Chris Stevens. And it's a special trip this month because June is Black Music Month, and I will be giving you guys a video each day this month. That means 30 videos for 30 days. So if I sound a little tired at the end of the month, just give me some grace. But yes, On the Groove Line is a brand new music YouTube show and podcast that is going to discuss great music from the past, the present, and I guess the future once we get to the future. But June, of course, like I said, is Black Music Month, and we're going to talk about all the great things that Black musicians, Black artists, Black instrumentalists, Black producers have given the world. And we're going to start with one of my personal favorites. I think this man doesn't get enough credit for how creative a musician he was, as well as reshaping the sound of early 80s R&B, because we all know that disco was basically Black R&B sped up about 100 BPMs or whatever. But once, the homophobes in the rap community, I mean, not the rap community, oh my gosh, oh no, not the rap community, the rock community. Once the homophobes in the rock community got a hold of disco, they just absolutely destroyed it and killed it. We had Disco Demolition Night, talked about that on my previous YouTube show. I may actually bring that conversation over here at some point. But Roger Troutman and Zapp had a very interesting backstory. Roger started playing guitar when he was very young. He had his own few groups here and there. He and his brothers formed a group called Roger and the Human Body in the late 70s. George Clinton and Bootsy Collins got a listen, signed into Uncle Jam Records, but Uncle Jam never got off the ground because George was, well, George in it at the time, with the drugs and different things and the financial constraints. So they just went ahead, Warner Brothers just went ahead and moved Zapp, as they were now called, off of Uncle Jam, just straight ahead to Warner Brothers. And Zapp, in that deal, Roger also got solo albums. So his first one, The Many Facets of Roger, was released the year I was born, 1981. And it did pretty well. You had So Rough, So Tough. You had a cover of Heard It Through the Grapevine, which is 10 minutes long. I don't know how Roger got 10 minutes out of Heard It Through the Grapevine, but only Roger. But yes, his second solo album, that's the one we are going to discuss today. That is 1984's The Saga Continues. Now, what's interesting about Roger, let me put this back up on the screen so y'all can get a good picture of this. I mean, look at the suit, man. I mean, the Jerry curl, the intense stare, the blue suit jacket with the nice little pocket square, not the pocket square, the tissue hanging out of the pocket, and I think that's off-white or some kind of like light pinkish maybe shirt and tie he's got on underneath. But yeah, this is early 80s album cover fare pretty much for male artists. Like, you had to be wearing a suit, your hair had to be of some kind of length. I mean, there weren't too many bald guys back in the early 1980s. It just wasn't. If you were black, you had a Jerry curl. If you were white, you had a mullet or some wet and wavy, something to that degree. And Roger, whoever took this photo deserves a ton of credit for putting that together, because this is a really nice album cover. I mean, it's not anything outlandish. It's just Roger on the cover, like meaning business. And there's him up, there's his name in cursive up in the top hand corner and like red bar lights, and of course underneath, The Saga Continues. So yeah, The Saga Continues was actually, it doesn't sound too much like Zapp up to a point, and that's what makes this album great. And as much as I love the danceable aspect of The Many Facets of Roger, I feel like The Saga Continues is the better album of the two. He had four solo albums in total, but I feel like The Saga Continues is the one that shows you just how genius of a musician he was. Like, it starts off with In the Mix. In the Mix is probably one of the funkiest tracks of the early 80s. It actually went top 10 on the R&B charts in the summer of 1984, and it doesn't get played a lot for some reason. I mean, people, when mix show DJs, they stick to the Zapp records that I guess, are legendary. I mean, more bounce to the ounce. I mean, it doesn't get more legendary the more bounce to the ounce. I mean, then you'll have some DJs that will play Do Why Diddy. You'll have some DJs that play I Can Make You Dance. A select few will play Heartbreaker, but in the mix, and maybe somebody once along the line will play So Rough, So Tough and the Grapevine cover, but nobody plays in the mix on the radio with these old school DJs anymore. And that's weird to me because I think in the mix is just so propulsive and it just gets you moving. Like I can't dance. I try, just like I try to sing on a lot of the shows that I do, but I can't dance and I can't sing. But I can tell you what, I turn into, popping taco, boogaloo, shrimp, all them jokers when I hear it in the mix, boy. Like that song just absolutely bangs for no reason other than to bang. And it's a wonderful, wonderful song. And then of course, next up is Play Your Guitar Brother Roger. And this is Roger, just noodling along. Him and Larry co-wrote this one. And the break song. It's pretty obvious what the break song is about. It's 1984. Breaking has become a movie. Roger references it in the song. And it's about the ghetto children being the kings and queens because they can break dance. I mean, that's what Zapp and the Troutman Enterprises family was all about, uplift, which is so crazy how Roger and Larry's story ended, but we're not going to talk about that because I mean, this is a celebration. I mean, I guess you got to talk about people's life in total, but I just want to celebrate Roger as the great musician that he was and not, just put a pall over, we all know what happened. I mean, if you're a music fan, if you're a Zapp fan, if you're an 80s R&B fan, you know what happened. It's very unfortunate. It's very tragic. It didn't have to happen. It is sad to this day. But, Roger was a genius. I mean, that's why I put the tagline up, most creative musician ever, because if you think you're getting a Zapp record when you turn on the Saga Continues, whether you have a cassette, whether you have vinyl, or whether you're streaming it, you're not going to get a Zapp record through and through. You're going to get Roger Troutman giving you his, take on different forms of black music, which is absolutely brilliant. I mean, In the Mix is absolutely a Zapp song. No doubt about it. Play Your Guitar Brother Roger kind of feels like a mix between the two. And Breaking is and the break song is basically his tribute to break dancers and breaking, which I think is pretty cool. But the standout song on this album to me is the one ballad, if you can call it that, and that's I Keep Trying. That was co-written with Billy Beck, the keyboardist of the best lineup of the Ohio Players. And I'll never forget the unsung where everybody in the band just talked about how dope Billy Beck was as a keyboardist and as a musician. So he's from Dayton. Well, actually, he's from Youngstown, but I mean, this Ohio thing just runs deep with Zapp, the Ohio Players, Heat Wave, Slave, Lakeside, on and on and on it goes. Did an episode about that on my old YouTube show. But yes, I may bring that one over as well. But just to listen to Roger and know there's not a vocoder, there's not a talk box in sight. This is him telling this woman that I ain't got everything you want me to get you, but damn it, I'm trying. I keep trying to give you more. Like he's like, I mean, Roger's not gonna blow you away. He's not Luther. He's not Freddie Jackson. He's not Smokey. He's not Ali Woodson, who sang treat her like a lady for the Temptations at the time. But he does a pretty good job of singing. And then there's a added bonus on this one. The saxophone by one Mr. Maceo Parker. Like when you think about how musicians kind of vibe together no matter what their sound is, I think that's dope because I mean, this is a 1980s beat. I mean, the drums sound like something completely out of the 80s. The synths in it are absolutely early 80s, but then you have Maceo's saxophone just, gliding in and out. Like it's a great ballad, in my opinion. I mean, it's not as slow as you would like a ballad to be or a torch song or a love song to be, but it's slow enough. And again, it's a great message. I mean, because how many times has a man just, going above and beyond, just be like, yo, girl, I'm trying, just cut me some slack here. Cut me some slack here. I'm trying my best. And then the second half of the album it gets real interesting. I mean, there's the cover of Wilson Pickett's Midnight Hour with the Mighty Clouds of Joy, one of the greatest gospel groups of all time. And there's the Bucket of Blood. Well, it's actually just called Bucket of Blood, but it's a it's a fictional hole in the wall, juke joint, chitlin circuit type of cut where there's an spoken word intro like, "Hey son, where can I get some music around here?" And the old guy points him to the Bucket of Blood, and the Bucket of Blood is this nightclub where great musicians play, and on random nights, all hell breaks loose. So it's just one of those fun, it's a definitely a blues, jazz, ragtime kind of record, and again, it's not Zap, it's Roger. This is Roger drawing on his roots, which I think is pretty cool. And there's the TC song, which is it's kind of, I guess you'd call it jazz fusion with the early 80s twist. I mean, there's not a lot of words, there's not a lot of, it's just instrumentation, and it's kind of in the middle. It's not too fast, not too slow. You hear a little bit of everything in there. You hear the synths, you hear the program drums, you hear some horns. That's Maceo and a couple of other guys on there. Then, of course, the last cut is Girl Cut It Out with Wanda Rash. That was the third and final single from the album that went out in early 1985. It didn't do very well. It didn't break the top 50 on R&B. It didn't even break the top 75. So I think this album gets lost in the mix, pardon the pun, because it's not, it didn't give you that same nonstop dance floor feeling that Facets gave you. It wasn't as bouncy as Zap 2, Zap 3, and it just it's Roger doing a record that he wanted to do. If you liked it, cool, but this feels like an artist and musician's album, pretty much. The Saga Continues, and Roger deserves a ton of credit for just continuing to, he pushed R&B forward. He was one of the people that pushed R&B forward in the early 80s after the fallout from disco. So credit to Roger Troutman for that. Before I sign off, I do want to share a few reviews that were in newspapers in the summer of '84 when this album came out, and then I'll tell you what I think about it. So let's go ahead and move to, this is from the Ann Arbor, Michigan News by Leeser Goldsmith. He says, for all his vocoder excess, Zap's Roger Troutman is really an R&B traditionalist. His best songs like Dance Floor and Playing Kinda Rough layer electronics over fairly simple grooves. On his second solo excursion, Roger reflects those influences in both his choice of cover material, Midnight Hour, and his composition of originals. Unfortunately, neither Roger's blues and Bucket of Blood nor jazz and TC song are particularly compelling. What's left then are uptempo funk numbers, of which only player guitar brother Roger produces any spark. The hit In the Mix is a garbled attempt to conform to breaker trends, as is the equally blatantly titled The Break Song. Well, damn, Leeser Goldsmith didn't like this album very much. The success of Roger and the Zap crew as a commercial funk outfit continues to confound. Their grooves are rarely exciting, and the Saga Continues is no exception. Too bad, because these guys do have a nice live show. Well, that's not nice, and it's wrong. How do you say a Zap groove, a Roger Troutman groove, isn't exciting? Okay. Next review. This comes from the Baltimore Sun. Roger Troutman, the brains behind Zap and a number of one-hit wonders, looked for a while as if he would be stricken by Bo Diddley's disease, that chronic inability to get away from the beat that made you famous. In the Mix isn't a complete departure from the spunky rhythm arrangements that help more bounce than the ounce and I Can Make You Dance click, but it leaves enough distance to keep from slipping into monotony. But Mr. Troutman's version of Midnight Hour cut with the Mighty Clouds of Joy is a marvelous cross between soul verities and funk functionalism, while Bucket of Blood clearly shows that his musical roots run much deeper than his youth would suggest. Can't wait until he does an entire album as good as those tracks. That's fair. That's a fair one. I think, what Roger was able to do in mixing all of those influences on The Saga Continues was pretty genius, in my opinion. Next up, the Odessa American from Texas. Roger Troutman made his initial impact as leader of the band called Zap a couple of years ago, but on his new album, The Saga Continues, billed only as Roger, Troutman has redefined his funk music to a slithery coolness. The jittery hit single is in the mix, but if you want to dance, Player Guitar Brother Roger and Bucket of Blood are likely candidates. Added Pleasure, a cover of the old Wilson Pickett hit In the Midnight Hour, which features the passionate shouts of the gospel group, the Mighty Clouds of Joy. Pretty standard album review, just like, okay, this is what you should listen out for. And this comes from the Omaha World Herald of Nebraska. And this leads in from a Smokey Robinson review. Robinson at least provides a little more variety in Zap's Roger Troutman, who goes by the name Roger. On his latest solo album, The Saga Continues, he adds to the familiar fat synthesized bass line, but there's little real advancement of his entrenched sound. The use of the Mighty Clouds of Joy is a huge waste on the cover of Midnight Hour when Rhonda Rush, should be Wanda Rash, takes over on vocals on the final song. It's quite a relief. I'd say save your money for the concert. Roger and Zapp headlined a show at the City Auditorium Arena on Thursday. So this was in the middle of a Zapp tour in the summer of '84 too. And he gave it 2.5 stars. Okay, that's fine. Last review is from the Oregonian Review, the paper out of Portland, Oregon. And this guy is nothing if not prolific. Since abandoning the P-Funk mothership, well, he didn't have much choice to abandon it. George didn't have money to pay him. Roger has produced 3 albums with Zapp, the Ohio-based band that includes his brothers Larry, Lester, and Zapp Troutman, as well as 3 albums of his own. Zapp's can't-miss electro-funk formula is reflected here on side 1, but one suggests his true heart lies with the bluesier grooves on side 2. The Mighty Clouds of Joy adds Sunday morning harmonies behind Roger's Saturday night voice box effects on Wilson Pickett's Midnight Hour, and his guitar quotes B.B. King on Bucket of Blood, a good-humored paean to the Chitlin Circuit. The killer single, however, is In the Mix, a thank you note to DJs guaranteed to have them popping in the streets this summer. Yeah, so I miss reviews like that, man. I miss reviews in general. I mean, granted, there are people that review things every day now because thanks to the internet, but newspapers reviewing albums just felt right when we were coming up. Like, we got to the magazines, we got to the Source, we got to Vibe, we eventually got to Double XL. I mean, I didn't really fool with Rolling Stone that much. Like, the only magazines I picked up were black magazines, like Jet, Ebony, Essence, Double XL, Source, Vibe, King. God, this King magazine, different show. But just listening, just reading those reviews, you get a sense of just how music and art is a matter of subjectivity, a matter of taste. Like, a few of those reviews were complimentary, a couple of them were not so nice, but that's how it is. I mean, not everybody has the same listening ear, but I can tell you what I think, and I think that this is Roger's best solo album. In my opinion, he just channels everything that informed his musical vibe up to that point, because Roger was only 32 years old when this album came out, because his birthday was in November. He was born in November of 1951. So this album came out in the summer of '84. So he was 32 years old. So he was not super young, but young enough to still be considered hip, as it were, back then. But he didn't have a problem shouting out the past that influenced him, because as the story goes, Roger's father would take him to juke joints when he was a kid with his guitar, and he would body people as a kid. You got old musicians in the club being wowed by this preteen. So Roger was always a prodigy, and Roger didn't hesitate to reach back and give shout outs to the artists and the genres that influenced him. I mean, yeah, we know him as the electro god. I mean, when you think of electro, when you think of boogie, when you think of those early '80s dance floor records from a pop perspective, you definitely think of Roger Troutman and Zapp first and foremost. But as it said in those reviews, his vibe definitely came from the hole in the wall joints, the juke joints, the Chitlin Circuit. Maybe that's why those records, the Zapp records, do so well from an '80s perspective, because the hole in the wall juke joint of the '40s, '50s, and early '60s became the after hours dance clubs of the '70s, '80s, and '90s. It doesn't get much better than that. So once again, Saga Continues, wonderful album. Highly recommend you check it out. I'll put a Spotify link in the description below or in the chat so you guys can pick that up on your own time and just listen to it, and you tell me what you think. And that's going to do it for the first edition of the BMM 30 on the Groove Line. Thank you guys for listening and watching. And again, this is just day one. One day down, 29 to go. So thank you all for watching and listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook. Be sure to check out our website. All of those things will be in the description below. And I'm trying to think, do I want to start an Instagram and Blue Sky account? I don't know if we have a Twitter account, but I don't use that Twitter account that much. So you guys tell me what you think, if I should add Blue Sky and Instagram to the On the Groove Line reach out. So let me know what y'all think. So thank y'all for watching. It's just day one. We got 29 more to go. So thank y'all for riding aboard the Groove Line. Greatly appreciate you. Until the next time we ride, y'all be good or be good at it.